Hey, what's up, Mavs fans? Kevin Gray, Mavericks pre- and post-game host on 97.1 The Freak on the Dallas Mavericks Radio Network. Appreciate you joining me here on my YouTube channel at Kevin Gray Sports for Inside the Mavs. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to download and subscribe to Inside the Mavs wherever you get your podcast for free, the official Mavericks podcast of 97.1 The Freak. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Not a lot to like at the American Airlines Center on Tuesday night as the Dallas Mavericks suffer a 120-103 loss to the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja Morant and without Jaren Jackson in this game. After the Mavericks got a signature win on Sunday, Minnesota Timberwolves, they were not able to handle their business against the Memphis Grizzlies on Tuesday night. And as such as it was, the Mavericks, despite getting a combined over 60 points again from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, were not able to bring the kind of energy as a team that they needed to in order to win the game on Tuesday. The Mavericks in the first quarter got out to a 16-9 lead, but the Memphis Grizzlies used an 18-2 run of their own to be able to get back into the game and take a lead that they would not relinquish, as the Mavericks found themselves in a hole after the first quarter, down by 7 points. They were outscored in the second and third quarters, a combined 74-61, outscored by 13 in the second and third quarters, where the Grizzlies were able to really put it away. From there, the Grizzlies dominated the Mavericks on the offensive glass and really took it to them in the paint. As you look at the numbers, outscoring the Dallas Mavericks by 10 points in the paint, 56-46. And then in second chance points, got after it as well, as I mentioned, based off of the offensive rebounding that you saw in this game, where the Memphis Grizzlies had 18 offensive rebounds in the game, including 7 in the third quarter alone, that really was able to help them take it to the Mavericks, not only in the paint, but also throughout the course of the game. So a really disappointing loss for the Mavericks, who were looking to get to a season-high 8 games above 500. They were looking for their 4th consecutive win on this season-long 7-game homestand. And as Jason Kidd talked about after the game, the energy was flat from this team after you saw them put together a terrific effort, a total team effort against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They did not bring that same energy, as if they took the Memphis Grizzlies lightly without Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. Of course, Ja Morant, suffering a right labrum tear in his shoulder, is going to be having season-ending surgery soon, and he will not be back for the Grizzlies for the rest of the year. Marcus Smart in this game had 23 points, but he had to leave the game with a right finger injury of his own. And unfortunately, as he likes to do customarily every time he sees the Dallas Mavericks, Desmond Bane went off this time for 32 points in the game, as he also 9 from the free throw line. For some reason, loves playing against the Dallas Mavericks. In the 3 previous games coming into the game on Tuesday night, he was averaging 29 points per game against the Mavericks this season. And the Mavericks now tied the season series. I should say the Grizzlies tied the season series at 2 games apiece, as that was their final game between the two teams this season, which is really weird for the Grizzlies because they are now 11-10 on the road this year, despite the fact that their total record so far this year is 14-23. That means they are a whopping 13 at home so far this year, but yet they're above 500 on the road. A team that came into the game having won their last 2 road games over the Lakers and the Suns. They complete the 3-game road trip of theirs with a clean sweep by finishing off the Mavericks at the AAC. But a lot of different things did not go right for this team in terms of the Mavericks. They got punished on the offensive glass. They didn't have anyone to protect the rim, with no Derek Lively II missing again with his left ankle sprain. And defensively, they allowed Desmond Bane to get to the bucket anytime that they wanted to. Even David Roddy at one point scored 11 straight points for the Memphis Grizzlies. And you're looking around at Dallas thinking, you let David Roddy Toddy, whatever the hell his name is, be able to come in and drop 11 straight points on you at one point. And that happened in the second quarter when he went on a personal 11-0 run that helped balloon the lead to 19 points. So just a disappointing effort all around for most of these Mavericks. As I mentioned, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving combining for 64 points in the game. Kyrie tried to keep the Mavericks in it in the third quarter, scoring 16 points, but we know that wasn't nearly enough for the Mavericks as they found themselves down by 20 at the end of three, 103 to 83, and it was all academic from there. So the Mavericks have to pick themselves up off the mat as they get ready to welcome in Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks on Thursday. The Knicks at 22-15 were able to get a win over the Portland Trailblazers on Tuesday as they welcome back Jalen Brunson, who's going to be playing at the American Airlines Center for the first time since leaving in free agency to go play in New York. But before we get there got to be some real answers to the questions about what is going on with guys like Josh Green and, of course, Grant Williams. And Josh Green combined to score as many points as you and I did on Tuesday. 0. You look at the numbers for Josh Green, for example, 0 of 3, 0 points in 23 minutes of play, only having 3 rebounds. Grant Williams, not much better at all, 0 of 2 from the field. He was a negative 20 in 7 minutes that he played. In fact, couldn't even get on the floor in the third quarter against the Memphis Grizzlies. So, and as I detailed on Twitter, there's some concern about the shape that he's in right now and the load that he was going to be coming into the season with, and whether or not he would be into the kind of shape to play the extended minutes that he thought he was going to be playing. And it appears right now that isn't even the case, because the faith and the confidence that appears to be lost for him right now in terms of Jason Kidd and the rotational minutes that he's not getting in a game like this, where you would think you were trying to find any kind of spark energy-wise, as Jason Kidd was searching for throughout the course of this game. Maybe Grant Williams could provide it. Maybe Josh Green could provide it. No one could provide it in support of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And for the Mavericks, that's an issue. At times, these two have been able to provide some real energy and spark. Grant Williams at the beginning of the season, really since the first 7-8 games of the season, hasn't provided that much. Josh Green has been up and down and uneven in his performances so far this season. There are times where he has been really good in transition, being able to be a decent passer and knock down threes in transition, but also knock down wide open threes when he's had the opportunity to. And then you've had games like this where he simply has disappeared and not shown up. The Mavericks in this game didn't get anything from the guys other than Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And in a game where you saw the Memphis Grizzlies, as shorthanded as they were the aggressors and the ones that came in and punched you in the mouth. And that's an issue coming off of what was, as I mentioned, probably your best win of the season. And I don't know if the Mavericks took them lightly. I don't know if Jason Kidd took this team lightly, but you cannot take anybody lightly in this league, no matter how badly they are or how much injured they are, especially in the case of the Memphis Grizzlies. With no Ja Morant, with no Santi Aldama. And as I mentioned, Marcus Smart had to leave the game with a right finger injury, but that was before he had knocked down 4 threes, shooting 50% from 3, where he always seems to play well against the Mavericks. Of course, he's from Flower Mound, so maybe he has something to do with that as well here in the DFW area. But at the same time, a disappointing, bad loss for the Mavericks. That's all I can say. Bad loss for this team, and they've got to find a way to pick themselves up before they welcome in the New York Knicks, because let me tell you who's going to come into the AAC looking to punch them in the mouth. That would be Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and OG Anunoby in the New York Knicks, which will be a fun matchup to watch. OG Anunoby, the best defensive player on this team, be able to go up against Luka Doncic. And he trying to find a way to remain healthy. You saw at one point Luka Doncic having to go back to the locker room to be tended to before he was able to ultimately get back on the bench and then get back into the game to finish things out. But you could tell not only his right ankle swelling that he's dealing with, but also the quad injury continued to bother him. And the Mavericks simply got outplayed. They got out physicaled. And what bothered me most in the post-game comments for Jason Kidd is that he said that the physicality was too much for the Mavericks. The physicality too much for your basketball team, a team that was playing a Grizzlies team that was shorthanded, but much more aggressive than you were, getting after you on the boards. I don't care how injured or how depleted the Grizzlies were. You had the better team, theoretically, on the floor with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. With those two setting the tone, you should have got more from your other guys to be able to help you out. And you simply didn't do that. And nobody was really effective in this game for the Mavericks. You look at some of the other numbers in this game. Mavericks shooting just 43% from the field, going just 33% from downtown as well. As I mentioned, got out rebounded by 21. They got crushed when it looked at also the bench points as Memphis outscored 33 to 24. And you also get outscored in second chance points 21 to 8. So not only was Memphis the more aggressive team, they were the more hustling team, and they got after it much more than you did in every facet of the game. That's not what you need. And this loss, I put on Jason Kidd for not having his guys ready. You should, after a win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, be ready to come out to bring the kind of energy needed to beat a team that's reeling, having lost its superstar for the rest of the year. And you allow the Memphis Grizzlies to not only stay in the game, but ultimately beat you down in the first quarter and then really take it to you for the rest of the game, where the Grizzlies led by as many as 22. Inexcusable for this Mavericks team. So whether you feel like they need more size in the middle, hello, Derek Lively, once he comes back, or ultimately to try to get a little bit tougher, they need to find some of that. And this message for Josh Green and specifically for Grant Williams, you got to find something here, because now we're going on too long of a stretch where we're questioning whether or not Josh Green and Grant Williams have the goods to continue to not only play for this team, but be viable options when it comes to the depth of this team, with especially Grant Williams' role being reduced to what it is right now. Those two have got to find a way to turn things around, particularly Grant Williams, because he was the big free agent signing that you brought in. And if there's questions about him being in shape and his ability to play extended minutes, especially now that we're almost halfway through the season, that's a problem. It's a big problem if you're the Dallas Mavericks. So they'll need to find a way to get those two turned around quickly. And if they don't, things will continue to not look good for Green and for Williams by the time we get to the trade deadline on February the 8th. But the Mavericks fall 120 to 103. Bad loss for them at the AAC as they lose their first game of this 7-game homestand. They finished the season series tied at 2 games apiece with the Memphis Grizzlies. They'll look to pick themselves back up on Thursday night when they welcome in Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks. Tip-off at 7:30 p.m. I'll have the pregame beginning at 7 p.m. on the Dallas Mavericks Radio Network on 97.1 The Freak, where hopefully the Mavericks will be able to get this thing turned in the right direction as they look to bounce back with a win against New York on Thursday. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to like and subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, and download Inside the Mavs wherever you get your podcast for free. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Peace.